Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. A lot of people have been asking for it. Here's your perfect placement video. Okay, so I'm going to be doing up a lot of ornaments. And this is my little secret, is I purchased some wood coasters. So don't tell anybody, this is our secret only. So some of the edging might need some sanding after you've engraved, but you're going to probably be engraving or sanding your engraving afterwards anyways. So it's kind of nice that you could make ornaments, but you could also make them into coasters by adding the little rubber feet afterwards. So let's take one out of the box and let's get ready to go here. So I've got it up on my platform. I'm going to bring it to the corner. I'll just move the camera over here so you can see everything. So the first step we're going to take is measure the inside diameter there. Okay, so that's approximately 98 millimeters. And the next thing I'm going to do is make sure that when I bring my machine, which is turned off, into the absolute home position, so where it's hitting both of those homing switches, I'm just going to set up my platform and the wood coaster itself. And now it's time to focus my laser with my aluminum cylinder there. Now on the back, I found that if I can replace those with the M4 8mm screws, I can use this tool in order to be tightening my laser instead of using the very rough-edged short little screws. They're hard to get to, and I'm just a delicate person and it hurts my fingers. So it was by total accident. I had one of my machines apart and I grabbed two of the screws there and put it in. And then when I put my other machine back together again, realized, what did I do with those two screws? Well, I found them on my SculpfunS30Pro, and I thought, oh, I'm definitely going to replace that because using that tool behind is so much easier. So anyways, back to the coaster. So I make sure it's all level by measuring top, bottom, and the sides, and then I turn my machine on. Now let's get designing. So here's my idea, and I was actually thinking of doing an ultrasound photo. So it is designed to the 98 millimeters round. Now here I am making my white bounding box. So you'll see me up at the top there resizing that bounding box to 100 millimeters. Now eventually I change the whole thing, so you'll see later on in the video. Now what I'm doing is trying to make sure all the graphics that I have, and by using the shift key, I deselect that box, and I just wanted to make sure that all my graphics are grouped together, because if you click both of them and try to center them, it'll throw your graphics all off. So there I am centering it horizontally and vertically. And I've changed it to white. I'm changing the order to send to the back. And now, when I view the wireframe, I've got a nice clear graphic. Right now I'm going to duplicate that, slide that over there. I'm going to take the circle itself, ungroup it. I'm going to make the outside circle black. And I'm bringing that to the very front. You'll see what I mean, or why I'm doing it, when you'll see wireframe. So that gives me the perfect circle with the perfect bounding box, and then I've got my design with the exact same size bounding box as well. So now we're ready to export that. So I'm going to select both. I'm going to export the file, and I'm exporting it as a PNG, and I'm just renaming it the baby bump outline, and I'll save that, replace the file. So I have selected objects. I'm keeping the background transparent. The bounding box will show up white, and Lasergrbl will be able to see that bounding box. I'm keeping it at 300 dpi so it stays the same size, and I'm designed actual size. So now I'm going to take this set over here, which is going to be my engraving. Make sure I've got everything selected. And I'm going to export that file as the baby bump engrave. And I'm going to save that. I'm just going to replace that file, yes. So again, selected objects and transparent. the 300 DPI to keep it to scale, and I click on OK. So we're going to go over to Lasergrbl. I'm going to connect my machine. I'm going to home it. Now, if you see that your origin light is lit up, make sure you hit that to set your origin to 0. So we're going to open up the 98mm circle, which actually should have been the baby bump file, because this one I redid with a 106mm bounding box. But anywho, we're going to put that to smooth, vectorize. Now, optimize travel is if you had graphics inside, and later on in the video, you'll see what I mean. And so we've got it on no filling. I'm not touching any of the bottom buttons, and I will click next. Okay, so our border speed, we want to pick a relative speed that the laser's not going too quickly, so I'm going to go with 500. Now I'm just putting 5, but I thought, oh, let's go even lower. So I think I click in a 3 or a 2 there as my minimum, my 3, and again I have it on dynamic power. Okay, so I'm going to click on auto size. So that's why you see 106mm. Even though I did a 100mm bounding box on the original file, I had to redo some video. So you'll see that Lasergrbl did pick up the white bounding box, so that's why at the bottom, what it circled there, it said it was 4 over and 4mm up. And I always home the machine before I'm going to start. I'm now going to press play. So now it's going to draw the circle without marking it whatsoever, and I'm able to move my coaster around until I get the proper placement. So you'll see me fiddling with it here, watching it trace with my good laser glasses on. Remember, people, put your glasses on, your eyes will love you for it. So then I'll try and make minuscule little adjustments. And it's kind of running off the coaster there. So I'll do it again, and then I realize, oh, I moved it too much there. So we're just going to do that another time. And then we're going to do that another time until I finally get it right. Okay, so now we're going to open up the engraving file. So we're going to put that on smooth, line-to-line tracing, 8 lines. We're going to click on next. Now I actually used 1800mm, and I used dynamic power, 5% for my minimum. And I actually used, I believe, 900, which was 90%, of course. And I click on next. Okay, so I'll home the machine. And I just wanted to show you also with the circular frame button, which you can get this as an extra button if you go to Lasergrbl site, and they'll show you how to download them. But if you notice, with the circle frame button, it starts to go off. Okay, so Lasergrbl circular frame really can't read graphics that well. So do not rely on the circular framing button if you have graphics alone. But it is a really good tool, and I'll show you. I'm going to open up another file here. If you are using a circular outline around your graphics, and we're just going to open that up. I'm not going to show you any settings because I just wanted to show you that the circular framing button would work well here. So we're going to use the circular frame button on that. And as you can see, it will follow that perfectly round outline, and it works just wonderful. So if you find that it's framing it too fast, you can go down to your bottom right and slow down the rapid. Now you can also use the square frame afterwards if you've got a good eye and that you can see that you have put it there perfectly. So when you're finally happy with this placement, press play, and woohoo, we are engraving ornaments. Now I've got this sped up quite a bit. I wish my machine went that quick. But it's important to keep your machine at a certain rate and a certain power, especially if you've got a lot of detail. Now I go a lot slower than most people because I like to have deeper engravings. I think it looks a lot more polished. And there you go. You'll see how deep I have, because I have a plan of actually printing off, coding an ultrasound little picture, and I'm going to put that in there, and then I'm going to use epoxy on that. So stay tuned for an epoxy video. So yes, I've got a little bit of sanding to do. I might do some hand painting on it. Not quite sure yet. Okay, so that's first method. Let's go over method 2. So we're going to measure the outside diameter of our wood coaster, and it's 103 millimeters. So I'm just putting in cardboard, you guessed it, and I'm using magnets to place it down because I'm putting a basically solid table there, so I don't want my air assist to move the cardboard, which would then move my ornament. So I've designed the outside diameter there. If I click on that, so it's 103 millimeters for the outside circle, and 106 millimeters is my new bounding box. So I'm going to duplicate that. And I'll just click on there so that you can see I'm still using the 98 millimeter circle. And I'm just resizing that inner circle to 98 millimeters. And I'm selecting them both and centering them horizontally and vertically. So now I will use this template here to design all my ornaments too. So the first one here, I'm now going to export this file as a 98 millimeter round, or the wood coaster outline. And I will save that. And yes, I'm just replacing the file. So selected objects, again, transparent, so it will only pick up the bounding box. 300 dpi, so it keeps it at scale. And I will click OK. Then my new graphic, as you can see at the top there, has the bounding box of 106 millimeters. I'm going to export that. And I'm just going to save that as True North. And I'm going to say, yay, save. Transparent again, selected objects, 300 dpi. And I'll click OK. Now, let's get over to Lasergrbl. And I'm going to open that file. And I'm going to use my wood coaster outline. I'm going to open that. So I'm going to have that on smooth, change it to vectorize again. It's just on black and white. I've got it on no filling. I won't use any of those bottom buttons there. And I will click on next. Okay, so I'm going to keep a border speed of 2000, dynamic power. Now my minimum, I have 50 in there, which is 5%. For my maximum, I am putting in 300 because I want it to be 30% with my 10-watt laser. So this will just mark the cardboard. I'm going to auto size that so it shows it's 106 millimeters, and I will click on Create. So now I will connect my machine. Okay, and I bring my machine to the home. Now I've already focused my laser to the cardboard. Now I want to make sure my platform, I have to move that forward a little bit. make sure that it's actually engraving on the cardboard. So I'm going to press the homing button there, home my machine. And remember, if that one wasn't lit up, I would definitely hit that to set the origin. So you'll see that I'm at 0, 0. And I'm now going to press the play button. So cardboard is certainly the cheaper alternative route. Now you could definitely cut out the circle in birch plywood and use that as your template. But again, you would have to use the vectorize circle method to make sure you have it placed every time. So with my machine off, I'm just taking the gantry back. Now, sometimes you'll see me going against the grain, and sometimes you'll see me engrave with the grain. And sometimes it just depends on what I want the graphics to look like. Like if it's a scenic graphic, it looks really good with the grain running horizontal. So here I am fiddling with those little knobbies that I don't like. So I'm going to focus. And I hold my laser because I do not want it sliding down. I do not want to depress the cardboard any. I want to make sure that it's just resting nice and easy there. So it's actually a true focus. So I want to make sure that the coaster is flat and the cardboard is flat as well. Okay, with my machine still off, I'll just move my gantry back there, and I'm going to try to place the wooden coaster within the outline that I engraved on the cardboard. Okay, so it's time to open up our engraving file. So make that nice and big. Okay, I'm going to keep that on sharp. Now I have it on black and white, and I've got it about 50%. We're going to go line to line tracing. And I noticed I'm missing some of the lines, and I'm checking out the beaver's tail itself as well, because I've got some lines in here. So this is where I'll play with my black and white slider, and I'll slide that to give it more contrast until I get the details showing up that I want. Now if your detail isn't showing up, you can also click off the black and white as well. But I find I get deeper engravings when it understands it as a truer black. Okay, so I use my slider tool, and I think I finally settle on 74. I have it on line to line. I'm doing horizontal engraving now, and quality of 8 lines. Okay, so I clicked on next. Now my engraving speed, I'm going to change that to 2300 millimeters per minute because I don't need it as deep. I'm in dynamic power. I'm going to be putting 50 there for 5% power minimum, 950 there for 95% maximum. And I'm going to click on Create. Okay, so I'm going up, picking my COM for my laser, and I am connecting it. So again, I will home my machine. Remember, if that was lit up, I would set that to 0. And I'm going to press play. And while that starts at the very beginning, you can go down to your right-hand side, and remember, those are your interactive sliders. So you can scale down the power or speed up the linear or slow down the rapid even while it's engraving. That's why it's called the interactive tool. So I really like the looks of the coasters compared to engraving on the birch and then cutting them out. It's a time saver, but I also think it looks like a better quality piece. And chances are I'm going to sell this 10 times over something that looks like somebody could have got it at the dollar store. And there's my true north. I was going to say there's my beaver, and I knew that was not going to sound right. Okay, so I think we're pretty much squared away on how to get the perfect placement on circles. You can use that method actually on any shape. But you know me, I like to up our difficulty level. So I'm going to show you how I got the perfect placement on my Alice in Wonderland live edge. So what I did was actually opened up the file and I put it to vectorize. So I had it on smooth, the vectorize, no filling. Now I do suggest putting on the optimize travel button when you're doing this. So you can definitely keep it at a 2000 speed. My minimum, I kept it at 5. My other one was, which would be 0.5%, then 1. Auto sized it. My offset was 0, 0 to begin with. So when it opens up the file, you'll see the offset with the white bounding box shows it at 7 over and 21 up. Now I'm just going to reopen that file again. Put it to vectorize. And the reason I suggest putting on optimized travel is it will do some of the inside shapes first when it traces, but it won't be so long doing the outline, the overall outline. It'll do that midway through, so you don't have to wait 36 minutes for the whole graphic. So I'm going to click next on that. Just take a second for it to process. And there we go. So I'm going to connect my machine. I'm going to home my machine. And so it's showing 7 over, 21 millimeters up. So I'll home my machine again. And again, if my origin button wasn't lit up, I'd click on that. But I'm actually going to jog my laser itself. So you'll see me using the up and over arrows. And when you jog the laser, you'll have to reset your origin. So at the top right, it shows you your X and Y location. So you write that down so that if you play the file and that's exactly where you want it to be, reopen the file, click on next, and that's where I am taking the measurements from the X and Y when I jogged up the laser, and I'm typing that offset in. And this, if you've ever had your laser fail on you from using it, from just jogging your laser to a part and setting your origin, you'll learn that in a big burn, it's almost impossible to get your laser back in that perfect position. So if I'm doing a very large job that's, taking a considerable amount of time, that's where I will use the offset. I mean, I get a number of power outages here as well. So I've lost power when I'm in the middle of a large engraving. And so that's why I will use the offset when I can't engrave from absolute home. So when you open up Lasergrbl, it will keep the settings of the last thing that you did. So it still has my offset up there, and now I'm doing my line to line. And here's another little handy tip there. As soon as it opens, you can see the laser traversing right here. I've got some odd spots there, but I cleaned up the file, reopened it, and you can see using the vectorize function on a real wonky shape like live edge and using the offset because I couldn't engrave from the home position. That's how I was able to get the perfect placement. So I suggest watching video 29. It shows you how to restart an engraving project that stopped midway through. Okay, so here are my ornaments all sanded down. I still have to drill the holes, add the ribbons, add the beads, but you guys can make a lot of money off of ornaments, especially customized ornaments, memorial ornaments, things you can add people's names to. And one of my pet peeves are people that are actually engraving and then not giving them a sand down so it has that scorched look. Like, look how clean and crisp these look. just with a little bit of sanding of 120 sandpaper. So I'm going to customize with names. I can paint in the little hearts as well. Now I can give them a clear coat, or I can finish them with butcher block oil. But the important part is they don't look like they came from the dollar store. Well, I hope this video helps and inspires. Don't forget to subscribe. Now go create!